Got a special edition of National Report Court today. We're back in session. For today's case, we take you to Denver, Colorado, courtesy of EarthCam. You might have guessed it. We are talking about Colorado State's Supreme Court disqualifying former President Trump from appearing on the state's ballots in 2024.
So the move was made under the 14th Amendment and is related to the events of the Capitol on January 6th, almost 3 years ago now. So we're going to take up this case for National Report Court today with Randy Zelin. He's a criminal defense attorney. Ameer Benno is a former prosecutor, and Gerard Filiti joins us in studio. He is the special counsel with the Lawfare Project. So we're not taking sides here. We're just going to debate this latest ruling. Let's start with Randy. The justices who made this decision, all appointed by Democratic governors. What does this say about the decision, and where does this go next?
Well, I think the first thing that we don't want to fall into the trap of is immediately politicizing this. And I get it. It's very easy to say that. And yes, they are Democratic justices. However, to me, what is interesting is the fact that the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment doesn't talk about being convicted of insurrection. It only talks about engaging in insurrection, and insurrection is defined in the dictionary as an uprising, a resistance. And when you use force, then the uprising morphs into an insurrection. So what it's going to come down to is a judicial interpretation of who determines what it means to engage.
Really interesting point. Ameer, wanted to go for you on that because, again, as we've even heard from the court, the justices had a different interpretation of what the 14th Amendment really meant.
Yeah.
So where do you fall down on this one, Ameer?
Yeah, it was an undemocratic decision, and it's going to be struck down by the Supreme Court. I mean, number one, first of all, you need to have due process. You need an adjudication that there was engaging in an insurrection. That's first and foremost, and there was no such adjudication. Second, whether or not there was an insurrection is a First Amendment issue in the context of this case, because it was based on a speech that he gave. And the third thing is whether or not the presidency even falls into the category of office that the 14th Amendment Section 3 talks about. And there's a lot of cases, including the free enterprise case by the Supreme Court from 2010, where Chief Justice Roberts said that officers typically, as the Constitution uses the term, means subordinate officers, appointed officers, not the president or the vice president. So there's a lot of constitutional grounds overturn this, but the Supreme Court's going to have to move fast.
Interesting point. Gerard, Trump campaign quick to respond to this. They're going to appeal, clearly. This is what they wrote last night in a statement. Democratic Party leaders are in a state of paranoia over the growing dominant lead President Biden has amassed in the polls. They have lost faith in the failed Biden presidency and are now doing everything they can to stop the American voters from throwing them out of office next November. So, Gerard, what do you make of that response? How do you see this appeal going? We do know that Trump is appealing a lot of different cases. He's got another one on his plate.
Well, that's a very political response. It's the response that we would expect. But I agree with Randy. We need to take the politics out of this to some extent. There's a legal issue that needs to be resolved. And whether or not Trump is being targeted, that's a political question that voters will decide. But the legal issues are exactly what the Supreme Court will look at.
Yeah. Randy, are you in agreement that, again, this is going to go to SCOTUS? And then if you could, elaborate on what you think might happen once it reaches the highest court.
Well, look, has it ever been a cooler time to be a lawyer? It is unbelievable. Yes, I do believe it's going to go to the Supreme Court of the United States, and I have a sneaking suspicion the Supreme Court is going to punt on it. And I think ultimately the Republican candidates who disagree on everything, I think they are all in agreement on one thing: keep Trump on the ballot. And I think they say that selfishly and unselfishly. And I think I do agree with Ameer, and I agree with Gerard. I mean, really, this should be in the hands of the voters, not in the hands of a judge.
I think we can all agree this is a great time for news coverage right now, and we are so appreciative for our Newsmax viewers tuning in and getting great legal insight from these attorneys. Randy Zelin, Ameer Benno, Gerard Filiti, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Special edition National Report Court is adjourned.